Hello everyone and welcome to Stan the Wine Man TV. I am your host, Stan Rattan, and this is a blue collar wine show where I help you spend your wine dollars wisely. As promised, we're stepping it up into the big boys of Champagne. Now Champagne is a protected name, although I think Corbel still has it on their label because their grandfather did, etc., but you only can call it Champagne if it's from Champagne, France. Now, Champagne, France is a really unique area. It's one of the furthest northern parts where they grow grapevines. So obviously, it's going to be a cooler climate, which helps because they have trouble ripening the grapes, even the proper acid levels in the grapes. And that's really what makes Champagne outstanding. Also, the chalky soil helps a lot. So we're going to not get into a big dissertation about Champagne, but the three main grapes of Champagne are Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, and Pinot Meunier. They also do, believe it or not, Pinot Gris and Pinot Blanc, and they have two other grapes there that they use. Now they don't use them nearly as much as you use Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier, and Pinot Meunier and Chardonnay. But, you know, they still use them there. Some Champagne houses use those grapes. And there's two other, I can't remember. So a total of 7 grapes grown in the Champagne region. So, we're going to look at some big boys. Because I think just the feel of the store today, I saw some of the more expensive Champagnes going out the door. And I think the reason for that is that everybody just wants to celebrate the end of this frickin' year, 2020. Alright, so let's get started right off the bat with a very familiar label. It's called Nicolas Feuillatte Reserve Exclusive Brut. And this rolls in at $41. And I've always thought Nicky Feuillatte, I call it Nicky Fou, has been a very good value champagne. And we're not going to go into the big boys like Dom Perignon or Roeder Cristal. No, we're just going to get into these ones that are in that nice price point. We do have one a little bit more. So, let's see what we get on the nose. Bubbles, pretty good bubbles. Yeah. Like applesauce. First thing that came to my mind when I put my nose in glass was applesauce. So obviously there's a sweet apples on the nose. Just a hint of yeast, almond, marzipan coming through. I mean, 41 bucks, you know, pretty good play for Champagne if you want to step it up just a little bit. Let's see what we get on the palate. Love it. Good dry, very linear, nice and crisp. I love the apple that comes through on this one. Definitely some bread dough action, a little bit toast, brioche, as they would like to say. Definitely some yeastiness coming through that bread dough. An almond characteristic, definitely. Really nice, really good flavors. Finishes dry, nice and crisp on the palate. Solid Champagne for 41 bucks. I like that stuff. You know the worst part about this episode is cleaning up the sloppy seconds, right? These are not going to go to waste, trust me. This is the Drappier, let's see, Carte Mason Family Depuis Champagne. This rolls in at $45. Sorry for the stall on there, I just was curious about that. It's been a long time since I've had this big. Man, that Nicky Fou is just really sticking with me. And that's really what makes Champagne unique, is you get that bread dough, that marzipan, that, you know, those almonds and nuts, and you get the apple and all that. So the color on this is pretty golden. I didn't show you the Nicky Fou, pretty close to the same. A Let's see what we get on the nose. Drappier. Totally different on the nose. This has a kind of a combination of almond and pear. There's definitely just a bread dough component coming through. Not quite as dramatic on the nose as the Nicky Foo was. Let's see what we get on the palate. Well, a lot of bread dough on this one. Bread dough with, like, they smeared a little bit of apple on it, you know, a pureed apple. A little bit of pear as well. I didn't get the apple on the nose, but it's certainly on the palate. Super intense. Get that toastiness there. A little bit of that toast coming through on it as well. This has some pretty good... Oh, by the way, on the Nicky Foo, I'm going to go B+, A-. A-. Let's go straight up A-. Just intense on the palate. Really, really hits you on the mid-palate. It expands on the mid-palate. And then finishes with it, that bread dough. Like you're in a bakery, you know what I'm talking about? That bread dough yeastiness, that marzipan a little bit comes through on the finish, and it hangs on for a while. Yeah. So, A-. I'm going to go A on this one. I just think it's a solid champagne for $45. If you like that, you see there's different styles of things. Some people like them more linear and crisp and dry. This is kind of reminds me a little bit of the one we're going to taste at the very end. It has that nice kind of nutty, toasty, bread doughy thing going on with a touch of marzipan. Just really, really solid champagne. Yeah, that's an A. Let's move on. Very well known. This is a Taittinger Brut La Francaise, and this is rolls in at $57. I had the privilege of going to Taittinger in Reims. It was a fantastic experience. I'll never forget it. Got a little tour of the champagne house. Yeah, fantastic trip. So, not quite as golden as Drappier. Drappier, I hope I'm saying that correctly. I'm pretty sure I'm close enough. $57. Let's see what we get on the nose. This has a little stink action. I kind of like that. Now, I know you guys think I'm weird. I say a little stink action. It just doesn't kind of, you know, it's not stinky like poop or anything like that. Just a little bit old worldish, if you know what I mean. It has more of a peculiar smell on it. Definitely pears. You get a little bit of toast on that. And some almond. Let's see what we get on the palate. See, this is a little more elegant than this one. This has a little sweetness on the finish, which is really interesting to me. The toastiness and the almonds come through on this one. A little bit of nuttiness comes through. The yeast is there. It's not as big as the Drappier, but it's clean. It finishes really clean and crisp. Just a hint of citrus on the backside. And you know, at first I thought it was sweetness, but it's so different from the Drappier that I perceived it as sweetness, but not really sweet. It just has the fruit kind of lingers on the backside. You get like a little bit of Asian pear coming through with the yeast. Just nice, clean, crisp champagne. Totally different in style. All three so far have been somewhat different in minor ways. Well, major between those three. These two more similar. This one a little bit more of that in-your-face bread dough sort of thing going on. little cleaner, not as complex maybe as a Drappier. I'm gonna go A minus on that one as well. I think that's a really solid champagne. 57 bucks. I would take any 3 of these and feel perfectly good about it. Let's move on to the big one, the one that many people like. One of our fastest selling, more expensive champagnes. This is a Veuve Clicquot Brut from Reims. This was in at 73 bucks. This thing has went up quite a bit over the last 6 years. Incredible. But people still love this baby. So a little interesting, a little lighter than the Drappier, but they're all pretty close. This is fairly clear. Let's see what we got on the nose. This has a little bit of that. Remember that sawdust action I was talking about with the cavas? Just a touch of that. It kind of blows off it initially. And that's not a bad smell. Don't get me wrong. That's just kind of, you know, the essence of that. It's not like there's sawdust in here or anything. Definitely a pear component. More kind of an Asian pear. I get a little bit of the almond and bread dough. Not popping out at me, but, you know, it's a little bit tougher, obviously, in a champagne flute. Let's see what we get on the palate. Not nearly as bread doughy as I was expecting. Actually, the Drappier is a lot more than that. I'm impressed. I was expecting something different. That's how long it's been since I've had Veuve Clicquot. Right now, Lauren, I understand why you like this one so much. Very dry, very linear. I mean, solid. There's definitely some citrus notes in this one. The bread dough is subdued. It seems like last time I had, and then at the very backside you get that kind of almond filbert thing lingering. Just solid, like cuts through your palate. That acidity just sings on your palate from front to finish. You get a little bit of that kind of lemon, kind of almost lime citrus on the back end. Solid. There's just hints of bread dough, a little bit of pear, like Asian pear. Man, bone dry but really solid champagne. I was expecting something completely different. It's been a while since I've had Veuve Clicquot, and I'm really impressed with this wine. I know it's 73 bucks, a lot of money, but I think some of you are going to spring for a little bit more at the end of the year. So I think these are all great choices for different reasons. But this Veuve Clicquot, I'm going to go straight up A+. I think it's a very solid, well represents the region with that linear kind of sharp acidity that makes it just sing on the palate. Solid wine. So, thanks for taking a little time out of your day. I really appreciate your support. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any comments about champagne, any questions, just shoot me, make a comment, shoot me an email, whatever you want to do. And I'll answer your questions. But yeah, if you are going to spend some money, we got 4 really solid examples of champagne. You keep watching, and I'll keep helping you spend your wine dollars wisely.